Hey guys, it's Lainey. Welcome back to Crafted by Lucas. I've got some new supplies that I'm going to be using today. The first being the nested stitch scalloped frames from scrapbook.com. We are going to use one of the smaller ones today. I also have some things pulled from Lawn Fawn, which are also new that I was supposed to use during the spring and Easter time, and I just wasn't able to record. So we are going to bring in elements from these here. We are going to be using this bow today. I'm not sure if we're going to use both layers because it does have this base layer here. This is the Excellent Easter Basket from Lawn Fawn. I believe I got this from Amazon. I will link everything that I can find in the description box down below for you guys. Let's pull in. What I want to do is create repetition with these frames and the bows. Yeah, I think that that's going to fit just perfectly. So let me move this aside. And I've got these colors pulled from Concord and Night. We've got Honeysuckle, Sea Glass, and Creamsicle. And what I'm thinking about doing is doing a tone on tone. So I'll cut the frame out in each color and then the bow out in each color, and then lay that down and kind of see how that looks. So what I'm going to do, I don't have to cut that down because I need to, let me think. Let's cut the frame out and the bow, and then we will play with this and then see, kind of see where this takes us. I'm thinking that I want to build this up. That's kind of why I was hesitating there. If I build the frames up, I probably want to continue to build the frame up in the color. So the side of the frame will be pink instead of white. This is so cute. So two ways you can use this. You can just use the frame cut out, as you can see here, or you can keep the inner layer as well and have it look like that. And that's more like a stamp, like a postage stamp. So two different ideas there. And I love how this bow cut out. You can pop those pieces out or leave them in. And then I could even bring in like a lighter shade of each color to maybe fill in the inner part. That's an option there as well. Okay, so I'm going to repeat the process. I'm going to cut out the frame and the bow in these other two colors. And then I will bring in our panel and we'll get that cut down to size and play with placement. Okay, so let me bring in my Spellbinders magnet here and place these down so I don't misplace anything. It's about time for me to get some new cutting plates for my Spellbinders and for this little machine here. All right, so we've got those cut out. Let me move those aside. I'm going to bring in my paper trimmer and let's work on our panel. I've got 80-pound cardstock here. This is an A2 size, but I want to cut it down, and it actually looks like it's not completely straight as well. So I want to cut this down on both sides, but I want to keep the height. So I want to cut this down to 3 3/4. So I'm just going to remove a little from both sides just to make sure that everything is straight. So I think that this is even now, and I'm going to bring in my card base. This is a top folding card and a portrait orientation, and it's 110-pound cardstock. And I think that that is going to work out nice. So what I want to do is just create a margin on the left and the right side. But I wanted to make sure that I kept the height because I wanted to be aligned with the card base. So I'm going to go ahead and let me think here. I'm working in a different order. I'm going to go ahead and magnetize my card base down. All right, and we'll build up the panel with some foam tape. And then we've got our frames. And you could play around with positioning and angles, so that's kind of playful there. And then I was thinking something like this, and I'm not sure if I want to keep the centerpieces for the bows or not, but I'm kind of thinking something like that. So that's more playful, or maybe just really left justified, or maybe something like this. And I'm really thinking I'm going to keep this centerpieces of the bow itself. And one way you could do this is create an inlay and cut the framing out of the panel itself. But because I wanted the colors, I'm thinking of now maybe cutting the frames back out and building them up to give them dimension. So the bows will be set back into the frame, kind of like a shadow box. But I am liking how this is looking. So what I'll need to do is probably finish my cutting, and then we will just build the card. So I'm going to move this aside and bring in my frame, and I'm going to cut this out a couple more times so we can build this frame up and give it some thickness. Okay, so I was only going to cut it out 3 times, and then I tested it out and decided just to go for a 4th go, and I was using all of my scraps, which is such a good thing as well. So let's bring this back in and magnetize it down, and now let's go ahead and build up our panel. I'm going to be using the last bit of this 5mm foam tape, which I have loved so much, but it makes my card so thick. I started running into storage issues, so after this I'm going to switch up my foam tape process. Let me clean up that edge. That will really bother me. Like that right there, I don't like that. I want everything to be even, and that's difficult to do. Every time I cut it after it's stuck down, I always get it crooked. All right. Excuse the noise in the background, guys. The AC is going to be cutting on and off as we move into the warmer months. Let's remove these strips here. Then I think we'll really be able to see the margins a bit better with this white on white. All right. Let's make sure that this is straight. Excuse my head while I line this up. Making sure it's aligned at the top. All right. So it's aligned up at the top and the bottom, but we've just got the margins on the side all the way down. So different from the usual where we bring it in on all 4 sides. So now we've got to do some gluing. I'm going to use my Barely Art liquid glue here. And let me grab some tweezers. You could definitely use spray adhesive with these if you had that. I need to get a new little box to use, so I can lay them all in the box and then spray it outside and then quickly layer them. I find that that's the easiest way to do it, because it does have a lot of fumes. If you've never used it before, definitely go outside. It's like spray paint, but it's glue, so you don't want that in the house. All right, so what I'm going to do is probably just speed this up and put some music on, because I've got a lot of gluing to do. last frame here. And I did zoom in a bit because I was kind of zoomed out and you could see the mess on my desk. So just wanted to let you know that if you didn't catch it because it was sped up at that time. But I am loving this frame, this scalloped frame set. I'm so glad that I got this. It's so cute. And like I said, you can have the centerpiece in there as well. And then it's like a stamp, like a postage stamp. And I really like how that looks. And you know what? Like if it was, you could do like a white. You could bring in the white or like maybe a glitter. That would be really fun, actually. Okay, but let's stick to the plan. So left justified. And then I also need to pay attention to the spacing. Let's go ahead and glue the bottom one down. And it will help align the other two. If you had a T-square ruler, that would be helpful. But I just need to work slow, and I had to be quiet. Okay, and I'm making sure it's straight as well, because if that is crooked, then it'll be very noticeable. And I'm kind of bad at that. I get stuff crooked a lot. All right, adding a little glue, using my precision tip to spread that glue out. Love this precision tip. Lining it up on the left side. And then laying the rest down. That is straight. So now I'm just going to press it down so that can adhere in place. And our last one here, I initially was thinking of doing some kind of gradient for the color scheme, and I'm glad that I didn't. I'm glad that I went with just 3 kind of random colors. Changing it up. All right, let's look at the left side. That's even. The margin looks good up at the top, that space. It looks straight. All right, and now let's get that positioned and pressed down. Now for the bows. I'm going to lay the bows inside the frames, and we'll see how that looks. And then I think I might pop out some of the center pieces and see how that looks as well. I don't know, I really like the color because it just adds more color to the card, because there isn't a lot of color going on, and if we remove the center pieces, then obviously it's going to continue to remove more color from the card. Got some adhesive right there. This would bring in white, and then we could have maybe a gold embossing powder stamped on it. Okay, so let's pop these out and then look at that and see which one we like better. And you'll definitely have to let me know in the comments what you would do. I'm trying to be careful because I don't want to damage the center pieces in case we want to use them again. So I turned this over and I'm just going to poke them through the back side there, just so I don't damage the front. And there we've got the cute little bow. Yeah, I think I like it without the center pieces. So let's go ahead and just remove these. Okay, so I like how that looks as well. So let's just go ahead and glue this down. And then we're going to have to play with some stamps. All right, last one here. Making sure that that's center aligned, and my goodness, the tweezers make this so much easier. So let me pick this up so y'all can see the dimension and the margins. So this is front facing, and I love the left justification. This is very different from things that I've done in the past, and you've got that thickness there and kind of like that framing look or that shadow box look. I really like that. All right, so now for the sentiment. So I like the hooray. I think that that is fun and playful, as this is as well. So that would be nice. Or even just a thank you. So it would be super universal. So what I need to do is, let me clean off my desk, and I need to bring in my mini Misty and some embossing powder, and then we will play around with ink and embossing powder and all that jazz. All right, so I am gonna use my mini Misty here, and we're gonna try this out with the stamp, and then if we don't like it, we can just use the banner die itself. So I need some paper, and we're gonna stamp it out first. Okay. I had to remind myself of what I was doing. And my goodness, I love Lawn Fawn stamps. They are so nice. I am just rubbing that oily film off of it so it has a better impression. I'm cleaning that on the door there, and I'm going to come in with Tuxedo Black ink by Memento and dabbing that up. Let's make sure my paper is positioned in that corner. Pressing that down. Uh-oh. I had a little fuzz on it. I guess that was from my hand. Okay, so let's turn this over and try to stamp that again. I don't think it's on there anymore. I don't see it. I'm gonna have to go wash my hands to get that ink off. Oh yeah, that's a much better impression. All right, I'm gonna stamp it up again so it has even lines there. Some of it is darker than others. All right, perfect. And that is our banner. Okay, so bringing this back in, and what I was just thinking actually is I could just do the gold embossing powder for the entire flag and the sentiment, or I can do the black outline and then the gold embossing powder for the sentiment. So there's just a couple options there, but I think I like the gold on gold the most. So we're gonna redo this once more, and we're just gonna do it in embossing powder. So I'm going to use my anti-static powder right there. So I'm gonna come in with my Versamark and stamp this up. This is just getting that stamp sticky for the embossing powder to stick to. All right, let me make sure that this is nestled in that corner there. And then just pressing this down. And it's gonna be hard for you to be able to pick this up on camera. That looks like a really good impression, but I usually stamp it twice, so let's just go ahead and stamp it up again. So just lightly stamping that up again for the second time and making sure that this hasn't shifted. It's nestled in that corner. And then just lightly press that down. We've got our stamp here, and what I'm thinking about doing, I could emboss this and heat it up separately, or I could do it together. Let's try to be bold and do it just in one fell swoop. So I'm going to take my tweezers and pick that up because it's sticky, and I've conditioned my stamp. The hooray or thank you? Oh, I think I wanted to do the thank you instead of the hooray. No, we're gonna do the hooray. We're gonna do the hooray. Okay. It's fun and playful, right? Okay, let's get this nestled in that corner, magnetized down. Make sure that this is in the correct position. Okay, perfect. Clean that door. And once again, we're gonna stamp this up twice. Being very careful and making sure that my paper is not shifting as well. You could use tape to reinforce your paper as well. very lightly pressing this down because these are small letters. I don't want it to be too thick and it'll have the letters kind of running in together if it gets too gunky, if that's making sense. And I'm going to use embossing powder in gold. It is super fine detail. It's from Hobby Lobby. Sprinkle that all over, let it set for a moment. Tap off that excess. That looks so good. Okay, let's do that one more time. Let it set for a moment and then shake off that excess. So my heat tool, it's got a low and high. I'm going to turn it on high. I'm going to heat this up for probably about 15 to 20 seconds and then apply it to my paper. I want this to be nice and hot so I don't have to apply too much heat to the paper because the paper will start to warp. So let's turn it on and let it heat up. All right. And now you can see that shininess there. It is melted onto that paper. And I'm glad we went with the Hooray. That was a great choice. Okay, so let me trim this down so I can fit it through my mini die cutting machine here. And let's get this die out. And I need some washi tape here. All right, so this is important to make sure that this is lined up because it does have this little cutout here as well to cut out the banner, so you can like use it as a tag and put a string through it. So I need to make sure that that's really aligned. I'm trying to keep the washi tape on the outside of the die so it doesn't end up damaging the banner itself. So let's run this through, and hopefully I have that lined up just so it cuts out nice and clean. Oh yeah, how cute. That's perfect, guys. That is the winner for sure. Let's bring this back in, and I'm gonna get a different pair of scissors because those other ones are in need of a good cleaning now. Look at that, guys. We're going to keep it left justified so it's interacting with the focal point of the card, but because it is a banner and interacting with this white space, it provides more of a balanced card, and I think that that is perfect. So what I want to do is build this up as well, so I need to grab some of that foam tape from Dollar Tree. So it comes in 3 different sizes from the Dollar Tree, and I think this medium size is going to work out just fine. Let's see here. I'm going to kind of have to manipulate the foam tape a bit. Okay. I think this is going to work. Grab my non-stick scissors, and I'm going to have to pull that back and clean this corner up a bit because it will be exposed on the front side. That's it, guys. That's the spot. Well, I say that. I want it to lay down a little bit better. So I'm going to peel back some of this very carefully. Peel back some of this foam tape there and cut that back because this is propped up on the frame. So as you can see there, I just cut some of that foam tape off to leave more white space exposed so I can kind of nestle this down. So it's going to be supported by the frame. It doesn't need that foam tape. And I need to add a little glue under here so this lays down. And I'm just going to hold that in place while that gets glued down. For embellishments, I've got these from Spellbinders. They're just those discs, and they kind of take on whatever color it's near because it's got that iridescent. And I have no idea what I'm gonna do here. I do feel like it does need something a little extra. So I was playing with 3. I had one kind of here, and then I moved it into this frame here. So I think I'm gonna just have these 2 here. I'm really not sure about this 3rd one. So should I keep the 3rd one or not? Let me move these aside, because the 3rd piece to the embellishment can kind of be the sentiment there. And I think that I'm gonna keep it like that. I just really, I'm gonna add a 3rd one. I'm second guessing myself. I don't want to do it after the fact. Let's just have one interacting with the frame. And that is the finished card. So I really like the panel, how we've got just the margins on the left and the right side. We've got that dimension with the foam tape and also the layering of paper. I really like the framing of the bow as well. And the hooray is just a nice, fun, added touch to finish the card off. All right, everyone, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next card or craft.